Hello everyone, I'm very glad that you're joining this story. Subscribe, like and comment. Enjoy the story, smile more often.
They say near death changes a man, sharpens the edges of your world, and dulls everything that never really mattered. When you're lying in a hospital bed, with tubes running out of places you never expected and a machine whispering your heart's rhythm like it's telling secrets to the nurses, you start thinking about things differently. Not big things, little ones. Like the sound of your own front door creaking open, or the way your dog waits with his head tilted at exactly the same angle every time you come home. That's what I was thinking about the day they wheeled me out of St. Vincent's, my damn dog's head tilt. Not mortality, not regrets. Just that stupid look like, where the hell have you been, man? The sun was out that day, but everything looked like it had been painted a few shades duller than usual. My brother Tony drove me home in his rusted-out Silverado. He talked the whole drive, probably to distract me from the fact that he was going 20 over every time he glanced down at the speedometer. I nodded along and smiled when he made one of his terrible jokes about the nurse flirting with me. Truth is, I wasn't listening. I was thinking about Laura, wondering what she'd say, how she'd hold me, whether she'd cry or not. We pulled into the driveway, and there she was, standing on the porch with her arms crossed like a bouncer at a dive bar. Not a smile. Not a single damn smile. No hug. No kiss. Just a stiff nod and a glance at her watch, like I was late for something. Tony helped me out of the truck, gave me a brotherly slap on the back that nearly buckled my knees, and peeled off before I could ask him to stay for 5 more minutes. I think he felt something in the air too. Inside the house, everything smelled too clean, like someone had tried to scrub away guilt and ended up bleaching the soul out of the place. The couch pillows were arranged like a catalog photo. The dog, Ringo, didn't come running. He wasn't even in the house. Laura had sent him to her sister's, she said. Said she didn't want him jumping on me, hurting my heart. That's when the first alarm bell rang in my chest, and not the medical kind. The real kind. The kind you ignore because you still want to believe this is your person, and maybe they just had a rough week. I sat down on the edge of the recliner, still in the clothes the nurse had helped me into, an old sweatshirt and soft cotton pants that made me feel 80 years old. Laura stood a few feet away, leaning against the kitchen counter with a glass of wine in her hand. She didn't say anything for a long time. Just stared at me like I was something she forgot she ordered from a catalog and didn't want anymore. Then she finally spoke. "You're weak now," she said, and it wasn't an insult. It was a statement of fact. Like she was reading the weather report. And I'm tired of pretending. The words didn't register at first. Not the way you'd think. They didn't crash over me or punch me in the gut. They just sort of floated there in the air, waiting for my brain to accept them. And when I finally did, I looked at her and smiled. Actually smiled. Because it made sense. A sick kind of sense, but sense all the same. "How long?" I asked. She sipped her wine. "It's been over for years," she said, almost casually, like she was talking about a subscription she forgot to cancel. "You were never bad. Just not what I needed." That part actually stung more than the "you're weak" bit, because I had spent over 20 years thinking we were fine. Not perfect, but fine. The kind of couple that stayed in on Saturday nights and knew each other's Chinese takeout orders by memory. I thought that meant something. To her, it was a rut. A cage. A long, slow slide into boredom. "I'm not sorry," she added. "I thought I would be. But I'm not." And that's when I knew I had already left her, maybe not physically, but something inside me detached and started moving in a different direction. It wasn't rage. It wasn't even sadness. It was something quieter. Colder. Like the sound of snow falling on a roof you're about to set on fire. I stood up slowly, still shaky from the hospital, and walked toward her. She flinched a little, which surprised me. Maybe she thought I'd scream. Maybe she wanted me to. But I didn't. I reached out and gently tucked a loose strand of her hair behind her ear. Then I kissed her forehead. Soft. Almost grateful. "Thank you," I said. Her face twisted up, confused and half disgusted. "For what?" she asked. "For being honest." Finally. Then I turned, walked down the hallway, and closed the bedroom door behind me. What she didn't see was that I had stopped at the hall closet on the way and grabbed something small, forgotten, and important. Something that would change everything in exactly 4 days. But that's the thing about being seen as weak. People stop paying attention. And when they stop paying attention, you get to start planning. Carefully, quietly, exactly how I like it. There's a strange peace that comes with pretending everything's okay, especially when you already know damn well that it's not. The first few days back home, I played the role of recovering husband so well, I could have sold the script to daytime television. I said the right things, smiled at the right times, nodded along when Laura rattled off some story about a parent-teacher conference, even though my head was somewhere else entirely. She looked at me different now, not cruel exactly, just like someone who'd already left the building but hadn't quite figured out how to carry the body out. And I let her. I let her believe she'd broken something permanent. I let her believe I was done fighting. That was her biggest mistake. I started watching her. Not in the creepy, lurking in the dark kind of way, but in the quiet, surgical way. The way a man watches a dam when he's waiting to see where the first crack shows. And I started remembering things, not just what she said when I came home from the hospital, but what she hadn't said over the past few years. All the times she came home late and blamed traffic, even though she worked 10 minutes from the house. All the moments she locked her phone when I walked into the room, smiled too wide, or didn't smile at all. There's a pattern to these things if you're willing to trace it. By the 4th day, I wasn't just watching, I was hunting. And the first place I looked was the garage. Not because I had any real reason to, but because that's where people hide things they think no one will care to find. I hadn't touched the rafters in years. We didn't have kids, so no Halloween decorations, no old toys. Just a few busted folding chairs, a broken fan, and what I assumed was a box of ancient tax documents wrapped in a garbage bag. But when I climbed up there, something felt off immediately. The bag was newer than the dust around it. A little too clean. A little too carefully tucked. I pulled it down, sat on the concrete floor, and opened it. Inside was a small cardboard box, taped shut with the kind of obsessive neatness you usually see in serial killer documentaries. And inside that box? A burner phone. Cheap, gray plastic. No case, no scratches, barely used. I pressed the side button. It lit up with a flicker and came to life like a ghost opening its eyes for the first time in years. There were no photos. No saved contacts except one, just the letter M. My thumb hovered over the message icon, but my curiosity got the better of me, and I went straight to the call log. 36 missed calls, all from M, all within a 2-week window. That's nearly 15 calls a day for 2 weeks. That kind of thing doesn't happen by accident. And it sure as hell doesn't happen between just friends. I clicked into the texts. Sparse. Short. Almost military in tone. Same time? Traffic's bad. Can't tonight. He's home. You okay? No emojis, no pet names. Just business, like two people who know how to keep secrets because they've had years of practice. I sat there on the cold concrete floor with that burner phone in my lap, and I wasn't even angry. I didn't feel the fire, not yet. I felt something else, confirmation. Because when someone tells you they've been pretending, you start wondering just how long the performance has been running. And this little plastic bastard in my hand had just handed me the program notes. I waited until late that night to do it. Laura was in the shower, humming to herself like someone who didn't have a care in the world. I sat on the edge of the bed, phone in hand, and stared at the single contact. Then I dialed. It rang 3 times. Then a man answered. His voice wasn't deep, but it wasn't young either. Confident. Relaxed. Like he was expecting a woman on the other end. Laura? What's wrong? I didn't say anything, just held the phone up to my ear and listened to the silence that followed when he realized no one was answering. Then I hung up. Not because I was scared. Because I needed to think. He didn't say hello or who is this. He said Laura. That meant she had called him before. Often. Recently. Enough times that her number was burned into his brain. I placed the phone back in the box, retaped it, and slid it back into the garbage bag. But I didn't return it to the rafters. No. I had other plans for that little artifact. Sometimes you don't burn evidence, you save it. Because evidence is only as useful as the timing of when it's revealed. When Laura came to bed, I was pretending to be asleep, breathing slow, one hand across my chest like I was still fragile. She didn't touch me. She didn't even look at me. Just slipped under the covers and turned her back like the day was done and nothing important had happened. But something had. And in 4 more days, she'd know just how much. Sunday mornings used to mean pancakes and bad coffee, and Laura humming something soft while she folded laundry in the kitchen. There was a rhythm to those mornings, a kind of quiet domestic heartbeat that made the house feel like more than walls and drywall. That rhythm died a long time ago, though I hadn't realized it until the silence started making more noise than anything else. Now, Sunday mornings are for recon, for truth, for peeling back the thick skin of routine to find the rot festering underneath. This particular Sunday, Laura told me she was driving out to her sister's place in Cincinnati. Some brunch thing, she said, kind of annoyed I even asked. I nodded, kissed her cheek with the same empty warmth she'd been feeding me for God knows how long, and told her to drive safe. She left at 10 sharp, wearing jeans too new and makeup too perfect for a simple family brunch. The moment her car rounded the corner, I grabbed the keys to my truck and followed her. I didn't tail her like in the movies, weaving through traffic and ducking behind buildings. No, I just kept a steady distance, 3 or 4 cars back when I could manage it, far enough not to be obvious, but close enough to track her if she pulled a fast turn. She didn't. She drove like someone who had a destination burned into their muscle memory. She didn't drive to Cincinnati. She drove exactly 34 minutes northeast, straight into a rundown strip of nothing just outside Hamilton, a place you don't visit unless you've got business you don't want anyone asking about. She pulled into the parking lot of a motel I hadn't seen in years, the kind of place with faded red doors and hourly rates. You know the kind. I parked across the street in the lot of an abandoned diner and killed the engine. The windshield was dusty, so I cleared just enough space to see through with a clean line. She got out of the car with a small bag overnight size, though it was still morning. No hesitation, no looking around. She walked straight to room 11, knocked once, and the door opened from the inside like whoever was in there had been watching her approach. She disappeared into the room, and the door shut behind her. I didn't even reach for my phone. I just sat there, staring at that door, the blood in my neck throbbing slow and steady, like it was waiting for something to give. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. I leaned back, eyes fixed on that room. Then a white SUV pulled into the lot and parked 2 spaces from her car. The driver didn't hesitate either. He got out, checked his reflection in the side mirror, smoothed his shirt, and walked straight to room 11. My stomach dropped a little, not from shock but from recognition, because I knew that man. I had shaken his hand. I had handed him beers in my own kitchen while he measured the backsplash and told me how he'd done the exact same tile in his wife's house before she passed. Mark Brenner, the contractor. 3 years ago, we hired him to remodel our kitchen after the pipe burst. He spent 4 weeks in our house, almost every day. Got along with Ringo better than I did. He called Laura Miss L, like it was some nickname they'd shared in a past life. I remember thinking it was sweet, back then. I remember telling myself, this guy's just friendly. Now, watching him knock twice on room 11's door, I felt something sharp press behind my ribs. Not rage. Not yet. But a slicing realization that this wasn't new. This wasn't a recent accident. This was an affair soaked in history, marinated in years of lies and politeness and half-remembered laughter over power drills and ceramic tile samples. The door opened again, and he stepped inside without even checking the hallway. Like he belonged there. Like this was normal. The door shut behind him, and I sat back, letting that reality settle like dust in my lungs. Laura and I didn't fight about money. We didn't argue about kids. We didn't scream in the middle of the night. But this? This was worse. This was someone she let into our home, and then kept somewhere in the background like a spare key under the mat. I reached into the glove compartment and pulled out an old notepad. Wrote down the time. Room 11. White SUV. The license plate. All of it. Not because I needed proof. I already had enough. But because recording it made it feel real in a way watching couldn't. I watched that damn room for another 2 hours. They didn't come out. When the sun started to lower just enough to change the shadows across the parking lot, I started the truck and drove off slow, making sure not to look back at the motel. I didn't need to. The image of Mark Brenner walking into that room was carved so deep into my mind, I could have drawn it blindfolded. She came home later that night, around 7, carrying a brown paper bag and saying her sister sent us leftover casserole. I thanked her. Said I was feeling stronger. Said I might try grilling again next weekend if the weather held up. She smiled. Said that'd be nice. And I swear to God, I almost laughed in her face. Because I already knew which weekend I'd need the grill. And who'd be burning on it. The thing about real betrayal is that it doesn't always land like thunder, doesn't always scream through your veins and punch holes in your gut the second it hits. Sometimes it sits quietly in your chest like a patient infection, spreading slowly, calculating your breaking point with surgical precision. I didn't explode. I didn't yell. I didn't smash plates or throw accusations across the room like shrapnel. What I did instead was far worse. I planned. It started the very next morning, before the coffee even finished brewing. Laura was already out of the house, said she had errands and therapy clients to check in on, but I didn't ask questions. I let her move freely like a fish swimming into a net she didn't even see yet. Once she was gone, I sat at the kitchen table, drank 2 cups of coffee in silence, and wrote a name at the top of a yellow legal pad, Gregory Fieldman, attorney at law. Greg was a friend of my cousin's. We'd met once at a barbecue, talked about motorcycles and back pain, but I remembered his card because he had this line printed on it in bold red letters: "If you're getting screwed, I'm the guy you call." I called him that afternoon, and by Wednesday morning, I was sitting in a worn leather chair in his office while he explained what I already suspected. Ohio doesn't care how long someone's been cheating unless you can prove it mattered to the marriage. He told me if I wanted a clean break, I had to play it smart, not angry. He told me trust funds speak louder than sob stories. So I asked him what I needed to do to protect myself, and more importantly, how I could walk away from this with my dignity, my assets, and my conscience all intact. He said 2 words that shifted something in my chest: document everything. When I got home that night, Laura was already in bed pretending to scroll through emails on her tablet, but I knew she wasn't working. Her screen didn't even light up when she tapped it. I kissed her cheek, told her I was tired, and closed the bathroom door behind me. And when I looked at myself in the mirror, I didn't see a broken man. I saw someone sharpening the blade. Someone taking his time. By Friday, I had a guy from Columbus come in under the pretense of fixing our old HVAC system, but what he actually did was install 2 tiny cameras, one inside the bedroom lamp base, the other hidden behind the smoke detector in the kitchen. Both motion-activated. Both wired to a secure feed only I could access. I didn't need days and days of footage. I needed one night. One moment of confirmation caught on tape, undeniable and raw. While the cameras were being installed, I also made another move, one Laura wouldn't see coming in 100 years. I called my old friend Keith, my business partner at the auto shop, and told him I was ready to sell my half. We'd been dancing around the subject for over a year anyway, with me talking about retirement and him dreaming about expansion. He was eager to buy me out, but I told him it needed to be quiet, no announcements, no drama. The money, All $185,000 of it went directly into a private trust. Not under my name. Under my mother's maiden name. Paperwork filed. Legally airtight. Untouchable. I didn't tell a soul. Not Tony. Not Keith. Not even the dog when he came back from Laura's sister's place a week later and curled up beside me like nothing had changed. That damn dog, he still wagged his tail when Laura walked in the door. Dogs don't see betrayal. They just see hands that feed them. The footage came to life on a Tuesday night around 9:30. I was in the garage, pretending to rearrange toolboxes, when the alert hit my phone. Motion detected kitchen feed. I clicked it open and there she was, standing at the counter with a glass of wine, her back to the camera but her voice clear as a bell. She was laughing. Not the polite chuckle she used to give me when I tried to be funny during dinner, but the full, throat-deep laugh of someone who'd already forgotten there were consequences in the world. Her phone was in her hand, and on the screen was Mark Brenner's face. That white SUV son of a bitch. They were FaceTiming, and, from the conversation, it wasn't the first time. "God, I can't believe you remembered the wine I like," she said, giggling, taking a sip. "You're more thoughtful than the man I married." Mark smiled, leaned closer to the camera, and said, "I pay attention, babe. Always have. Even back then. Even back then." There it was. I watched another 10 minutes of their exchange. They joked about my cooking, my dog, the shop, the fact that I still didn't know a damn thing, and I kept watching without blinking. Laura leaned against the counter like she didn't have a husband under the same roof. She touched her neck when she laughed. She bit her lip when he told her he missed her. I saw everything I needed. When the call ended, she set the phone down and started cleaning up. No remorse. No hesitation. Just wiped down the counter and turned out the lights like nothing had happened. I saved the footage. Copied it twice. Uploaded it to a private drive. Labeled it tuesdaytruth.mp4. That night, she slid into bed and kissed my shoulder like she still owned a piece of me. I didn't move. Just kept breathing slow and steady, one hand under the pillow where the remote to the lamp camera was hidden, the other curled into a fist so tight it left a mark in my palm. The revenge had already started. And in exactly 2 days, the rest of the plan would begin. Because the thing about trust is, once it's gone, you stop building a future and start building a fuse. There's a certain kind of silence that settles over a man in the early morning hours when he knows something irreversible is about to happen, and he's the one holding the detonator. Not the panic silence, not the kind that crawls under your skin during emergencies or heartbreak, but the calm, measured kind, the silence of a man who's counted every step, drawn every blueprint, and double-checked the locks before lighting the final match. That was me, sitting in my old pickup truck at the end of our cul-de-sac, engine off, coffee hot, and the sky still too gray for the birds to start gossiping. For days had passed since I watched my wife flirt with her boyfriend from our own kitchen, and this time, I wasn't pretending anything. I saw her through the back fence before she saw anyone coming, Laura in her favorite oversized cardigan, sipping that cheap-ass boxed wine she always claimed was for guests, her legs folded beneath her on the patio chair, like she was still some carefree college girl. Her phone was in her lap, but she wasn't on it. She was just sitting there, staring into the backyard like it still belonged to her. That part almost made me laugh. Not out of bitterness, but disbelief. You'd think someone with that much confidence would have taken the time to notice the cracks forming in the foundation. But that's the thing about people who lie. They assume you'll always stay stupid enough not to notice. At 9 on the dot, a black Lexus pulled up in front of the house, slow and deliberate like it was delivering bad news in a velvet box. Out stepped the courier, a square-shouldered guy in a gray jacket holding a manila envelope and a digital notepad. He walked past my truck without glancing, not realizing I was the one who'd set the timer on the bomb he was about to drop. He found her in the backyard, said her name once. Laura Davidson? She turned, confused, then smiled politely like someone had brought her a free sample from the wrong store. "That's me," she said, probably thinking this was some mix-up, maybe a delivery, maybe something to sign for a school fundraiser or some charity mailer she forgot about. But then he handed her the envelope. "This is a formal legal service. You've been named respondent in a divorce proceeding. Documents are enclosed." Her face changed slowly, like someone dimming a light bulb. Not sudden, not dramatic, just quieter, heavier. She opened it right there on the patio. I saw her lips moving, reading lines she probably never thought she'd see with her name on them. First page was the divorce notice. Second page, division of assets. Every dollar I moved, every detail accounted for. The third? Copies of texts from the burner phone. The fourth? A notarized statement from my lawyer and video transcriptions of the kitchen conversation she thought no one had heard. The fifth, and my personal favorite? A single sentence: full spousal support and division privileges are waived unless respondent voluntarily admits marital infidelity in signed testimony. It hit her. I watched it hit her. Not like a slap, more like ice water poured down the back of her neck. She didn't cry. Laura never cried when she got caught. She froze. That was her thing. Play it cool. Look confused. By time, it worked on everyone else. Not me. She didn't know I'd been preparing this for years. Not 4 days. Not 4 months. Years. The burner phone I found in the garage? That was just the last one. The third one, actually. There'd been another before it, hidden in her gym bag back in 2019, when she started running again. The first one? I found that in the glove box of her car in 2016, back when she was driving her friend Diane to therapy sessions twice a week. Same story, different flavor. I hadn't said anything then because I wasn't ready, because back then, I still believed that people mess up and come back from it. But by the time the kitchen remodel started and Mark Brenner brought over that bottle of red wine with a bow on it, no occasion, just thanks for the job, I already knew. I knew who she was, and more importantly, I knew who I had to become to get out of it the right way. Not the loud way, not the messy, crying in the driveway way, but the clean way, the strategic way. I started moving things then. Not money yet, just the little things. Titles. Insurance policies. Updating passwords. A dozen small acts of self-preservation so quiet she never even noticed I was building a fireproof life one brick at a time. Now, as she stood on the patio staring at the documents, I finished my coffee, watching her through the window. She didn't come running out. Didn't call. Didn't even text. She just stood there, and I watched her do the math. Not the financial math, the emotional kind. The how long has he known kind. The how much did I miss kind. She knew the answer before she turned the final page. Everything. She got served. And she wasn't the only one. This whole time, she thought I'd been weak. That the hospital stay meant something broke in me. What she didn't know, what she never even suspected, was that my strength wasn't in my body. It was in my patience. It was in the way I could look someone in the eye while they lied to me and pretend I didn't already know the truth. People think revenge is a fire. It's not. It's ice. It waits. It calculates. And when it hits, it's quiet and permanent. But here's the thing, I still miss her laugh. Not her love, not her promises, not her lips or her hands or her goddamn casserole. Just her laugh. It wasn't real, but it felt like home. And maybe that's the cruelest part of all.